Hey everyone, this is Clint, and this is a tale of two exposés in the comic book industry. So I hesitated to jump in on this. Well, first off, this Bleeding Cool article that basically went over the Whisper Network in comics. This isn't, a Whisper Network as in that's what people call it. This is what the people within the Whisper Network call it sometimes. Okay. Whisper Network in comics. This came out, and on Twitter, the massive response I saw from SJWs. I don't know how else to say it. People that are all for the Whisper Network. They were trying to minimize big time. I won't get into specific tweets, but I saw that quite often. People trying to minimize this. They were trying to ignore it. On the other hand, you have this article that came out from the Daily Beast inside the comic book industry's sexual misconduct crisis and the ugly expletive history that got it here. All right, so these are two different articles, and if you think about this, let's boil this down in essence what this is about. You've got people complaining this one complaint over and over and over again. We'll go with the Daily Beast article here, that there are men in the comic book industry who exploit women and sometimes other men sexually in order to get jobs, in order to get a conversation with an editor, so on and so on, to get favors, to get in, to get a leg up. There's basically like this casting couch kind of environment in the most nerdiest of ways in some cases. All right, so and with this, obviously there have been some people brought in, some people accused that are it's just not on the same level as some of the other perpetrators of sexual misconduct, but the whole thing is a mess. Okay, so you have this, and you have the Daily Beast that is believing it, right? They believe her, and they're gonna go through and this is an expose essentially. Now, is this a bad thing? No, I don't think so. I don't think that it's bad to be reporting on this. I've been reporting on it too. It's insane how many sexual predators work inside the comic book industry. It's also insane how many people will use the fact that there are a lot of sexual predators to then also lump in somebody else that they don't like in order to get somebody else canceled that is not a sexual predator. But I mean, that's beside the point of this video. Okay, so this is going on. At the same time, there have been numerous reports of people that have been blacklisted in the industry, and it's over politics. Now, you could say, I don't believe that that's happening, but what makes that any different from the women coming forth saying that they were mistreated, because there's a bunch of sexual deviants that work in the comic book industry? Do you understand like the crazy dichotomy that's going on here? There have been several conservatives and several, I mean, you don't have to be conservative if you're just not far left, who have said that the comic book industry is specifically trying to prevent them from working in it. There is a Whisper network of people that are trying to prevent you from getting work based on your politics or lack of politics. So what is the difference? And minimizing what goes on. The evidence is exactly the same. This is a compare and contrast thing. These are first-hand accounts of things that have happened. In the case of the Warren Ellis and whatever his name was, Scott Alley, all those guys. You have accusers, you have the accused, and in many cases the accused are apologizing. In Warren Ellis's case, he apologized. I think it was a silly apology for the claims that were levied at him. But he apologized, and so that's some kind of confirmation on his end. People are losing their jobs over it. There's national, there's outrage. There's, again, the Daily Beast. This is not a comic book news site. This is beyond that. This is national news that has seen what is going on, and now they're talking about it because it is reminiscent of Me Too. Essentially, it is, an extension of the Me Too movement. On the other hand, you have the exact same thing. You have firsthand accounts of people saying, hey, there's a problem in the comic book industry. There's a whisper network of people trying to prevent me from getting a job. Now, in some cases, they might be preventing some of the actual creeps in comics from getting jobs. I don't know. I have not actually seen evidence of that. But there's a lot of evidence to support that they just don't, anybody that they don't like from an ideological standpoint, they will prevent them from getting work, or they will try their darndest to do so, and in some cases interfere with contracts to do so. What is worse, the comic industry is just full of people that are manipulating one another to try and get ahead or stick a knife in a back. I, it's just, it blows my mind as to how crazy this has gotten. I'm still waiting to see if Bleeding Fool releases more. My understanding is that this is the first of a series of articles that is going to be showing more. I look forward to seeing what there is. But why is it? This is my question, ultimately, to sum it up. Why is it that if Gail Simone says that there's a problem in comics with sexism on the part of men, that people listen, that she gets work because of it, and that she's held up to some kind of higher, this on this pedestal because she makes those claims? At the same time, she can say there's no Whisper network, and then there's proof that there's a Facebook group that members of that Facebook group are actually calling it a Whisper network, as here Alex DeCampi has said. He's been verboten on the Whisper network for years. Time to stop whispering and start shouting. Gail Simone's in that same thing. Why is it that we're going to listen in one case and turn a blind eye in the other case? The comic industry is, I don't know, I'm just so disenchanted with the mainstream comic industry. Sometimes I'm just like, well, when this came out, I wasn't even surprised. I knew this was happening. I knew that they talk in little private groups. I used to think that was like, oh wow, this is big news, But over time, it sort of wears on you, and it's just what you expect. You get used to seeing it. Isn't that what they said too about this? About the Daily Beast and the Me Too stuff? I don't know why I'm struggling to find the quote I was trying to find, but essentially in here, somebody was saying that they went into the comic book industry bright-eyed. They were looking forward to what was to come, and then over time they became disenchanted and didn't like comics anymore. You could apply that exact statement to anything. When you have a bunch of people in an industry that are working really hard to make your life miserable, or to keep you down under their thumb, or to pull you back into the bucket, or to prevent you from publishing a book, to interfere with your contract, so on and so on and so on. It is endless. It doesn't matter really what is motivating it, in my opinion. I don't understand why there's a difference. Why don't we believe people that say that they're being blacklisted and there are coordinated efforts to prevent you from getting work in comics? Why don't we believe those instances? Why do we try to minimize them, especially when there's just as much evidence? In another article, 2 articles, essentially very similar claims as to what is going on in comics. It's just that one of them is targeting women, and one of them, that's what it says here in the article, it's targeting men, seek to destroy male comic book pros. Is it possible that the comic book industry is just full of nasty people, male and female, people who are willing to do terrible things? That's possible. And don't get me wrong, there are still good people in comics. I've met several great people in comics that do good things and want to do good things. But I'll tell you, the bad ones sure work together to try and keep the mainstream core of comics exactly how they want it to be, and keep everyone else out. So I don't know. It is what it is. That's why I'm indie. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Appreciate you listening. Don't forget to back Downcast, Rise and Fall. I've been talking with the printer a little bit more on a few delays. Unfortunately, they've come up, not massive delays, but just little things. Yeah, and then Fatal is going to be coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks very much, and I will see you next time.